Hey everyone, welcome to the Cosine Law lesson. If this is your first video lesson, then here are some pointers for you. The first is that at any point in time, if you need to pause the video to actually try the work yourself, I recommend that you do so. Another thing is that if you need to replay any section of the video, feel free to do so. That's really important. That way, a video that's maybe 15 or 20 minutes long may end up taking you 60 minutes to complete, and that's fine. It's very, very important that you pause and actually work through the problems yourself so that you have a better understanding. So please take that time. If you have any questions, please feel free to come and see me. But in the meantime, I'd like to start by reviewing the trig investigation cosine rule. So the other day, we spent some time working on this investigation. And it said here, looking at the triangle and the diagram that you're given, use the cos function to write an expression for x in terms of b and angle A. Well, if on the side you wanted to write cos A is actually equal to x over b, rearranging for x, you know that x is equal to b cos A. Using Pythagoras in the diagram, you know that b squared is actually equal to x squared plus h squared. It says here, using Pythagoras, rewrite a rule for a squared in terms of h and y. So in doing so, you know that a squared is equal to h squared plus y squared. Looking at the bottom of the triangle, you can see that y is equal to c minus x. And then it says substitute that into the equation above. So you get h squared plus c minus x all squared. It then tells you to expand the brackets. So when you do that, you get x squared plus, if you need to, expand like this. This is c minus x, and then c minus x, which if that helps you, it should help you to then FOIL out the bracket like this. So that is equal to h squared plus c squared minus 2cx plus x squared. It then tells you to replace h squared and x squared, and when you do that, that replaces it with b squared, which is what you got right here. So you get b squared plus c squared minus 2cx, and it tells you to replace x, which you got in the first line, that's b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cos A. And there's the cosine rule. We're going to now use that cosine rule that we just discovered to find the third side of a triangle when you know two sides and a contained angle, or to find the angle when you know three sides. So let's try and do this using some of the examples here. So the first example says to determine the unknown length. So remember that little a is across from big A, and if you need to label to help yourself with the formula, little b is across from big B, and little c is across from capital C. Using the formula that we just discovered, a squared is equal to b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cos A. Substitute in the things that you need. B squared is 21 squared plus 15 squared minus 2 times 21 times 15 cos 105. When you use your calculator and number crunch that out, you get a squared is equal to 829. Remember to square root. That means that a is equal to 28.8 centimeters. This idea of square rooting is often where students, it's something that students forget to do, and in doing so, they often get the wrong answer. So I recommend that right now you pause the video and try the next example by yourself. When you substitute everything in, you should get out that r is equal to 3.4 kilometers. Try the next two examples by yourself. Be sure to pause the video and then check back to see that your answer is correct. When you try the next two examples, these are the answers that you should get. Hopefully you've recognized that it's just simply about substituting the variables into the correct positions. When you do so, then it's all about using your calculator properly. If you're having any difficulty, here are some things you should check for. Make sure that your calculator is in degrees. make sure that you also put brackets around the following. That might help you in case that negative sign is causing you trouble. In this next example, I've given you three sides that you know, and the angle is the thing that's unknown. Instead of using the formula that we've been using and rearranging or maybe carrying a lot of decimals around, we're going to manipulate the formula that we have. In doing so, you can say the following. Cos A is equal to b squared plus c squared minus a squared over 2bc. Now, this formula is given to you. You don't have to memorize it. It's just you have to be able to substitute in the values in the correct positions. So in this case, the A, or the little a that you're looking for, the angle A is the angle that's unknown, and the little a is the side across from it. Therefore, B and C can be the other two sides. It doesn't matter. What's most important is that the capital A is at the angle that you want, and the little a is directly across from it. If you do that, B and C, regardless, will be substituted into the correct position. So now, you should get cos A is equal to 19 squared plus 14 squared minus 8 squared over 2 times 19 times 14. That gives you cos A is equal to 0.93. But that doesn't give me the angle. Remember in your calculator to hit the second cos button, and that way you'll get that the angle is 22 degrees. This question here was a really good question because it required you to recognize that you needed to find an angle, 1. 2, that you needed to remember how to go from a point where you have this to find the angle in your calculator, and 3, to use a new formula. Looking at the next example, it says here find angle B in the following triangle. So because they don't give me a diagram, I'm going to draw one myself. In drawing one, I can label this capital A, this B, and this C. Little a is therefore 12 centimeters, little b is root 117 centimeters, and little c is 9 centimeters. Now in this case, I want to find angle B. That's here. The side across from it is here. So in the formula, I want to rearrange it so that it's cos B is equal to a squared plus c squared minus b squared over 2ac. You don't have to memorize the formula. All you need to remember is that this here and this here have to be in the correct spot. Now that you have that, you can substitute in. When you substitute in, this is the answer you should get. You should get cos B is equal to 0.5. Remember the second cos in your calculator, and you get out that angle B is 60 degrees. Last question is a word problem, a little bit more difficult than perhaps what you've seen before. We're now going to revisit our bearings lesson. In doing so, if you need to, pause the video right now, go to your bearings lesson, look it over, and then come back to the question. If you've done that at this point in time, I'd like you to try and draw the diagram. So again, pause the video, read the question, and draw the diagram. Two hikers, Jeremy and Maddie, travel 8.2 kilometers on a bearing of 30 degrees true, and then 6.3 kilometers on a bearing of 150 degrees true. What distance should they travel to return directly to their starting point? So I need to be able to draw a diagram. So again, if you haven't already, pause the video, draw a diagram, and come back to the question. So if you were drawing this diagram, you started at a point, and you went 30 degrees true for 8.2 kilometers. You stopped, hopefully you drew another compass, and then went 150 degrees true, 6.3 kilometers. The red line that I've drawn is the distance that I'm trying to find. Now, according to the diagram here, this here is 30 degrees. Be very careful, because people often say that this angle here is 60 degrees because they want to make that line straight, but it's not. So it's not 60 degrees. You don't know that for sure. So please be careful and make sure you don't make that mistake. Now, what you do know is that because of PLTZ, does everybody see the Z here? Look, I'm going to highlight it here in yellow. Because of the Z, I can say that this is 30 degrees. Well, if this is 150 degrees, then this here is also 30 degrees. That makes this whole angle here, sorry about that, which makes this whole angle here 60 degrees. Well, hopefully you see a triangle where you have two sides, an angle that's contained between the two sides, and the side that you want to find. Let's call that little a. Now, I'm simply using the cosine formula. A squared is equal to 8.2 squared plus 6.3 squared minus 2 times 8.2 times 6.3 cos 60 degrees. Finding the 60 is probably the most difficult part of this question for most people, aside from drawing the diagram. Using my calculator and doing some number crunching, I get a squared is equal to 55.27. That means that a is a distance of 7.4 kilometers. So if I was to break down this question and what to do, step 1, draw a diagram. Step 2, figure out the appropriate angles. Step 3 would probably be to use the formula and substitute in correctly, and step 4 is to solve. Hopefully you made it through this lesson all right and you didn't have any problems. Make sure that you get the homework done for next class, and I'll see you again soon. Take care, everyone.